Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, the original K-State sports show. Here's your host, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of the PowerCat Podcast. I feel like all I've done lately is podcast and do daily deliveries because it's been pretty constant as we discuss what's going on with K-State football. A little bit different stuff today, slightly. We'll see how it goes. I don't know what all the questions are. Tim Fitzgerald, Ryan Gilbert, Cole Carmody, your normal podcast trio. Trio. And we're going to start off by talking about the firing of Mike Gundy and some of the one name in particular that's popped up in connection with that job. Granted, it's a hot board. When we do hot boards, we do research of all the possibilities, all the things that would make sense. And the initial hot board is throwing darts at the wall. And then you start hearing stuff and you narrow it down. Well, first of all, Cole, when you heard Mike Gundy was let go on today, Tuesday, a little before noon, I think it was at 11:30. What an odd time to do it after playing a Friday night game, to wait to Tuesday, but they did. I thought they'd let him go another game or two, but I guess there was so much pressure, they had to do something.
Yeah, it was weird, guys. And he did his Monday press conference.
Yeah,
to me, that was the weirdest thing. And, if they would have canceled the press conference because there would have been some conversations behind the scenes like, hey, this is probably going to happen. We just don't know when. And even if it didn't happen this week, I don't think anybody would have really batted an eye because folks in the media were already talking about who the next head coach would be. I think it was pretty assumed that he was going to be gone either at the end of the season or at some point during this season. But I don't think really anybody expected after Monday passed that he wasn't going to coach that home game against Baylor. And there's a lot that goes into it, guys. Like, I have mixed feelings because I think it's best for Oklahoma State that they move on from Mike Gundy.
I agree.
But also I think that, the season and the AD already came out and said he's not worried about the rest of the season. He's worried about next year. He's worried about 5 years from now. And so if you're not worried about the rest of the season, let the man coach one more home game, right? Like, if you already have accepted that your team is horrible and you're going to lose every single game the rest of the season, what is 4 more days in the office going to do? And, maybe that would be giving false hope to Mike Gundy, but I feel like you owe it to him, a man who has only had 2 losing seasons in the history of his time at Oklahoma State, his very first season and then last season, to at least let him coach one more home game. It was just odd timing. And, it was, from a recruiting standpoint, I'm fascinated to see how it goes down. But, from a college football perspective, let's be honest, guys, it's a sad day because Mike Gundy, it has meant a lot to not just Oklahoma State, but to the entire Big 12 conference.
I agree. Look, Gills, in the current atmosphere of college athletics, the portal opens tomorrow morning for the entire football roster, which is weird if you ask me. But they did it 3 games into the season. So everyone with a red shirt can declare a red shirt and not play. They could play Saturday, technically. I don't know why you would, because it's now 4 games or fewer. I think it would have been smart as a business decision. Yes, it screws over the kids, but when's that ever been a concern for NCAA sports? I would have let them go a couple more games, but they didn't. It's potential. A bunch of these players could say, I'm done for the season. I'm shutting it down because I'm transferring. What do they do if they're all of a sudden their roster's 60 guys? It's crazy.
Go to the Oklahoma State Rec Center. Start recruiting whatever students you can.
We broke about that, but did you see that they added a quarterback who was enrolled at UCF for school last year? That's where they are right now.
But that was before the firing as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
How do you feel you're that guy?
You're big on vibes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the spiritual stuff of the world.
Yes.
I fired off a tweet maybe 2 or 3 minutes before news broke of Gundy getting let go or fired. It was about K-State's percentage. There's a less than 30% chance that K-State wins in 3 of its remaining games. The game at Oklahoma State was 82% in favor of K-State. So to give you perspective on just how bad that program, the state of that program is in, I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. But I tweeted that out maybe 2 minutes before the news broke. So I'm with you, man. I've got some sort of vibe. I knew this was going to happen.
Big B and I just had recorded the weekly Big 12 Power Rankings episode, and we talked about why is Gundy still with you after that Friday night debacle against Tulsa. And then before the show even released, it happened. So we competed with ourselves and did a live right as the other show was premiering. It had to be done. But here's why I started with an Oklahoma State topic. All the hot boards I've seen are topped by Zach Robinson, former quarterback, offensive coordinator for Atlanta Falcons. I think that's the obvious choice for Oklahoma State. That's their Colin Klein, the obvious choice to be the next coach. But among the many other names, very high on every list is Colin Klein. And people are having Brad Underwood flashbacks where Oklahoma State hired him, and that didn't work out, but it screwed up all the timing for Kansas State. Cole, do you think Colin Klein would go there? Do you think they would hire him first, and would he make that decision?
I think it's more so. Do I think Colin Klein would go there? I do. I believe that Colin wants to be a head coach, and if you listen to all the national people talk, they'll tell you that he is going to be one of the hottest candidates. Now, if you're Oklahoma State, do you want to hire Colin Klein? I mean, you want to have Texas roots if you're Oklahoma State. That is something that they have prided themselves on, is recruiting in Texas. And, I don't necessarily think that 2 years in Texas gives Colin Klein the Texas roots that Oklahoma State wants when it comes to recruiting. And I don't think people in K-State land have talked about that enough. Like, would Colin Klein leave to be the head coach at Oklahoma State? Yeah, but I don't think it would be out of the question then if K-State were to open later on down the line, if he's the head coach at Oklahoma State, that he wouldn't then leave Oklahoma State to come to K-State. Just because he goes to Oklahoma State doesn't mean that door for K-State in the future would be closed. That's just me speculating with no inside information. But we all know how Colin feels about Manhattan and his family. So I think from a standpoint of recruiting, it would be a hard sell to the boosters, because you are trying to convince someone who has the Midwest ties and not as deep Texas ties to, hey, we're going to bring this guy in, and then he's going to recruit the heck out of DFW, when in reality, I don't know if that's a realistic possibility. So could they hire him? Will they hire him? I don't know. He's going to definitely be a candidate. I honestly don't know if he's the best candidate for that job, simply because of that.
And now the Texas State and North Texas coaches are both on the hot boards I've seen.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not following this very closely, so I'm totally spacing the Texas State coach's name, but that seems to be kind of a fan momentum right now. But Gil's, one of the things that has handcuffed Mike Gundy, and let's be honest, part of it is himself, because he wanted to ignore the portal and NIL and keep coaching the way he was. And that was a disaster. They moved into both areas, but they have what is believed to be the smallest by far NIL budget in the Big 12. What coach is going to take that job? They got to fix that.
Yep.
I mean,
Colin,
I don't know what you're nuts if you take that job, unless, and there's talk that donor said, we're not giving until he's gone. And if that's true, maybe it'll be okay, but you got to put that together, because no coach is going to join for some vague promise of NIL. You got to have numbers. You got to have the money.
Yeah.
I think I think Oklahoma State is in a bad spot right now. Just a really bad spot. I don't like the timing of this. I'm not real comfortable with the execution in terms of waiting 3 days after a loss, but they got a pickle, Ryan Gilbert. It's a mess.
I don't want to put words into Colin Klein's mouth, but he is not going to take any job anywhere unless he truly feels like it is the best fit for him. Right? Didn't go to Notre Dame, decided to stay at Kansas State because he felt like it just wasn't maybe the number one best option for him. Okay, Texas A&M comes calling. All right, that's one you can't turn down. Is Oklahoma State, with, like you mentioned, Fitz, a very poor NIL fund, is that where he wants to go?
I don't see it.
I doubt it, but you never know. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but Colin Klein is not going to force things. I think we've learned that with his history and his track record as a coach. He's not going to force things. He's going to make the right move and the best move, because you can look at, I mean, Shaka Smart is a very random example that just popped into my mind, but him going to Texas was not the right move for him. I mean, of course, the 5 stars you can go get there is out the roof, you can go get those guys, but that's not who he is as a coach. And you got to look at it if you're Colin Klein. Is this really what I want to do? Go to a place where I don't want to say spend money on players, but at Texas A&M, you've got a pretty good amount of money in NIL to spend.
Oh, yeah. Now let's go here, because this is really the topic that I think impacts K-Staters. Colin's a young guy. Cole, do you think he's ready to be a head coach? He's been an offense coordinator now for 4 years. In this weird environment of college football, we're going to see more and more young guys. Thank you, Kenny Dillingham. Get head coaching opportunities because they can kind of keep up with the pace and understand the game. Being a head coach is a big job.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's ready, but I'm also, if you're going to roll the dice, and every hire is a roll the dice, at least this is the hometown guy, basically, your guy. Give me your thoughts on that.
I think, is he ready to be a head coach right now? I would probably lean towards a no, but in this environment, he has to take that chance, right? Like, you don't get into this profession to not take that chance. And there will be learning adjustments wherever he becomes a head coach, because, if it's not this season, I think that he has one more year at Texas A&M max, and then he's bound to be a head coach somewhere. And he'll have to learn on the fly. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. You guys think back, you talk about Kenny Dillingham, they were horrible his first year. And then second year, obviously they make that giant jump. So Colin's demeanor is so different because he's, what did you say, 36? But he doesn't act like a 36-year-old. He acts more like a guy in mid 40s, mid 50s than he does a guy in his mid 30s, just with his demeanor. He's not that fiery, go-getter, rah kind of coach. And so I think sometimes people can confuse age with demeanor. But Colin is not that. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not a young mind. That doesn't mean that he can't recruit the heck out of guys, because he is a very good recruiter. He's a very good football coach. He's a great developer of the quarterback position. But is he ready to be a head coach? I think he's more ready to be a head coach at Kansas State than he would be at Oklahoma State, because of the people that would be around him, because of that familiarity level, because of that comfort level. He would have to have a really, really good staff around him at Oklahoma State, I think, to be successful immediately. Not that he wouldn't be successful in the future. I think there is a better opportunity for immediate success if he were to be the prodigal son and return home, whatever the likelihood of that is, than to succeed immediately at Oklahoma State. And maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe it's backwards. Maybe he needs to go somewhere else before he becomes the prodigal son and comes to Kansas State. And maybe he'd have more success that way. I don't know. But as it stands right now, week 4 of his second season at Texas A&M, that's my answer is, I don't know.
I think that's a good answer. And the reason I bring this up is people are howling for Chris Klieman's head. And I'm just going to go on the record. If Chris Klieman doesn't step down and retire and call it a career, which is a possibility, he's talked about early exits, and he's talked about the stress in the current environment. I don't see any way Gene Taylor fires him. I just don't. The guy has a complete coaching career of winning at a high level. Now, something's obviously gone wrong, and he's aware of that. But I don't see, there isn't a world in which I see Gene Taylor saying, one bad season, you're gone, to someone who he respects. And yeah, he's a friend. I got news for you folks. If Gene Taylor had hired a stranger and 7 years later that guy was his head coach, they would be friends.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty common, and particularly with a personality like Chris Klieman. So short of him retiring, stepping away, I think he'll be back. and people are in a panic that Colin's going to get a job and it won't be Kansas State. Gills, it is what it is. And I think Cole might be right. If you don't, if you end up wanting a coach eventually, I think Chris Klieman will be afforded the opportunity to reset with his staff, find new dudes. And I'm going to say this publicly. I'm not calling for anyone's firing, but everyone needs to be closely evaluated. And if there's a doubt, they're gone. Not, we couldn't decide, so we kept him. You can't do that. Something's gone wrong, and maybe it's the staff. I don't know. But Gills, our K-State is just going to have to learn that maybe the timing won't work out on the favorite son. And if he doesn't want to come back, which is common, look, I got a good job. I'm not going back. I'm not going there. So be it. That's the way it goes. And maybe he's not the right guy. I don't know.
You got to keep in mind too, Fitz and Cole, that the issues that this Kansas State football team has in its locker room, Colin Klein is not the guy to fix those issues. I'm not saying he can't be a successful head coach at Kansas State or anywhere, but to fire a group up that's had lackluster performances, Colin Klein isn't going to be your guy. You can get your Drew Carrolls and your Connor Riley's on your staff to help that, but I would err on the side of caution that he's going to be the second coming of Bill Snyder if he takes a job in Manhattan. But you mentioned firing Klieman. If you're Gene Taylor, Fitz, fans do have to remember, we have to remember that Kansas State, each of its 3 losses have been by 1 possession, right? It's not like you're going out and losing by 60 points. I get it. This season hasn't been good. Let's not kid ourselves, guys. But this team could very well be 4-0 if it makes a few plays here and there. That's not me being optimistic. I think we've outlined how bad this team is. Fundamentally, schematically, talent-wise, everything is bad right now. But they've been in every loss for what it's worth.
Okay. Well, we'll find out how this all tracks. Folks, I'm going to be really surprised that Colin Klein is the guy at Oklahoma State.
Me too.
I think there's too many other options.
Me too.
Some with Stillwater ties, like Zach Robinson, and others with stronger Texas ties, which is so important to that program. We'll see how that plays out. But it's entirely possible Arkansas comes open. If Colin Klein, you're not saying no. And if he goes to Arkansas, you ain't getting him back. And honestly, put up between Arkansas and Kansas State, the SEC and the money that goes with it, the prestige that goes with it, the possibility of coaching at the highest level of college football while Kansas State and Oklahoma State might get left behind, just speculation. I think even if he had a K-State offer, he'd go to Arkansas. I'm sorry. I mean, at some point you have to understand it's business. It's business. The firing is a business, and a decision on where you're going is business. At the end of the day, he looked at Notre Dame and made a business decision. That wasn't the right place for me, but he never said I'm staying. I'm here forever. That just wasn't the right opportunity, and Texas A&M was. It felt a little bit more safe on many levels. So we'll see how that all plays out. It's a very interesting time in college athletics, and fans have zero patience anymore, which is a creation of social media and the immediate gratification that comes with social media. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, here's a weird thing for you young guys. When we didn't know something, we actually walked around and didn't know it. I mean, I'm not being facetious here. We didn't have Google. We had freaking encyclopedias, which he didn't carry around. Gills would have, because he's a very knowledgeable person. But you just didn't know. And now in social media, whether it's something important like, the price of bread or the reactions to coaching failures, it's just so immediate, and you want immediate gratification. Keep in mind, Gene Taylor's of my generation. So we're used to not being able to immediately have something. And there was a day, it seems like a million years ago, when coaches actually got 5 years to prove themselves. and the first 4 could have been failures. That's long gone, and it should be. There's too much money at stake now. But one bad season and you're gone, I'm not comfortable with that unless you see something really going bad, which I think was happening at Oklahoma State.
Yes.
And I think they convinced themselves, a new staff, fresh blood, let's go. But they didn't fix the NIL problem. So they went out and got a new roster on the cheap. It looks like the product on the field is a new roster they got on the cheap. So, okay. Well, we'll be tracking it. Our friend McLean Baxley at GoPokes 24/7 will be on it. We did a live today with Big B and I talking about this. McLean joined us. So that's on the Big 12 Insiders channel. On with more questions from Wabash Station. That's typically what we do here, but I wanted to start with that. Let's start off with football. The basketball schedule, the Big 12 one was announced. We'll get to that towards the end of this. We'll discuss that schedule, break it down. And I spent about 5 minutes on a graphic that is so cool, you're going to cry. First question here from Doug142. Doug really dug deep for his name. He saw an inspiration and he thought, I'll just use my ATM PIN number, and then realized I can't do that. I'll just leave off the last digit. Doug142 asks, has offensive line recruiting been part of the problem outside of Cooper Beebe? Has any other Klieman era O-line recruits made it to the NFL? It seems like the 2022 OL had a lot of Snyder's final offensive line class. Yeah. I mean, it is a problem. Cole, we saw as soon as Brian LePack took over, they hit the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And in total, they brought in 5 guys, right? And 1 washed out and left. And it didn't help.
It's strange because
Fitzpatrick would help.
Connor Riley was such a good developer. Like, he was a good developer. And so I think the recruiting message to those guys was, hey, come to K-State. We're going to develop you. By the time you're a junior, you're going to play. And so that message was actually starting to really hit home on the recruiting trail. I mean, you look at guys like Gus Hawkins, Caden Massey, right? For you recruiting enthusiasts, these were 4-star guys, in-state guys who K-State pulled. You know, it's hard to tell a kid, hey, come to K-State. You're going to play right away when you have Cooper Beebe, KT Leviston, Christian Duffy. All these guys are literally playing in the NFL or on NFL rosters. KT Leviston started at tackle for the Browns. Cooper Beebe is the starting center of the Dallas Cowboys. Like, it's very difficult to convince a recruit, hey, come and you're going to play right away in today's age, because that's what kids want. And so what they ended up having to do was they had to develop, they had to try and develop these guys, the Andrew Lang gangs. Could Andrew Langang have benefited from getting onto the field sooner? He absolutely could have. Now he's a redshirt senior. It's his final season, and he's hardly played. Had he gotten onto the field sooner, would he be a better football player? I think there's some legitimate, arguments to be made. But because K-State's offensive line has been so good, maybe this is a weak argument. I don't know. Because their offensive line's been so good, and because you're not Alabama, right? You're K-State. You have to develop. You don't get 5-star guys who can come in and make an immediate impact. I think it's hindered the development of some of these guys, which is the reason they had to hit the transfer portal. I know that's a long-winded answer, and maybe it doesn't make sense, but I actually think Connor Riley being such a good developer has what's hindered the recruiting, because it's not as easy of a sell to a kid to say, hey, come here, you're going to play. You can't tell him that, because then you'd be lying to him.
Yep.
So the question says, outside of Cooper Beebe, let's not act like Cooper Beebe is not one of the greatest Kansas State players of all time, arguably Chris Kleiman's best player of all time.
Right. Yeah, like if we hadn't won any games, we'd be winless. Yeah, it's one of those like setups to something that.
Well, 7 or 8 big plays that Arizona had, K-State maybe wins that game.
Exactly. People have done it with, and I kind of agree with this. Well, you take out the Jace Brown run and they average 1 yard per carry. Well, you can't take that out. That was a big part of the game. So yeah. But Gil's on to the point now. If you're going to suck, go suck with the young guys. Yeah. Just put them out there. Let them get game experience. Who knows? maybe when you turn on the lights and you tell them it's a real game, they rise up. I don't know. This is such a frustrating season. Nothing adds up.
I'm excited about the offensive line recruiting, by the way. Like Brian LePack has tried to patchwork this offensive line and it hasn't worked. I'm interested to see what the final 8 games of the season look like, because I do think we're going to see some other guys go in there from that group. But I'm fired up about this recruiting class. Like the offensive linemen that they're getting, every single one of them, the industry has seen their talent. And it's pretty evident that they're getting some guys who you would hope would be able to contribute sooner rather than later. And so for all the shortcomings that Brian LePack maybe he's had this season on the offensive line, if there is one reason why I think you want to keep him around for one more season at least, I think he's proven the fact that he can develop tight ends this year. But offensive line, I think the recruiting class is really good. So I don't think we're going to be having the same conversation next year.
Brian LePack's just a valuable asset to his staff, though. Maybe offensive line is not where his bread gets buttered, but he is absolutely one of the most cerebral coaches on the staff.
I agree. And let's be honest, offensive line takes a smart coach, but also a guy that's willing to, his players just climb down their throat and yell at them. And that's not really his style. And maybe that doesn't translate. There's so many things about this season that we just speculate about. We don't know. We're not in practice. We don't know how Chris Klieman is in practice. And he's admitted, I don't know all that's gone wrong here. Why do we not have an identity? I mean, we all have opinions on that, but he wants to find the actual reason. Next up, Cat and Colo. Just how good would we have to look against UCF to make you optimistic about the rest of the year? That's actually a really good question. Not that I'm surprised Cat and Colo asked a good question. He usually does. But first, I got to win. And for me, I think it's more about sustained effort than, maybe they make some mistakes, but the effort's there. They fumble the ball and the Knights take over the 25 and they force them to kick a field goal. There's things like that I haven't seen necessarily from this team on a consistent basis. Defense gets the offense off the field on a regular basis. Offense picks up first downs. I mean, it seems pretty basic that on 3rd and 5, you try to get 5 yards instead of 4. But they've been really good about picking up 1 yard too few. So there's some things in there that if I feel like it's better, I'll feel better. Got to win. You got to win. There's no formula in which anyone feels good about a loss at home to UCF. Mm-hmm. Even though UCF's better than I thought they'd be. I watched them the other night. North Carolina is hot trash. Bill Belichick, just go be with your girlfriend, man. You're just wasting time now. Maybe you needed the buck. I don't know, but this ain't working because UCF just clowned North Carolina. I don't know, man. I want to see some subtle things. I want to see the defensive front attack and make plays in the backfield. They don't. They do on passing situations. But how often have they got a runner down 2-3 yards behind the line of scrimmage? Mm-hmm. They're getting beat at the point of attack. That's got to end. Both offense, defense. They got to start winning the line of scrimmage. And also, I want to see more dual threat from the dual threat quarterback. If you're going to take one threat away, it shouldn't be Avery's running. That's his better portion of his game, or was. So things like that. And I know I just said there might be mistakes, but don't do them in special teams, for God's sakes. That you can't continue this. And granted, on the totality of the game at Arizona, special teams was K-State's advantage. Only because Arizona made mistakes. Mm-hmm. They ran into their own punt returner, causing them off. The punter dropped a snap in the hands. K-State didn't pressure any of that.
Was it 3 missed kicks?
Yeah, I mean, if Arizona had lost that game, they had every right to fire whoever's in charge of special teams. Because I hear it, well, we totally ruled the game. No, you didn't. There's 3 aspects of the game, and nobody knows that better than K-State people. K-State won a lot of games where their offense and defense weren't as good as the opponents, but special teams was significantly better. So, yeah, what do you guys need to see in this game?
Gilbert, I want you to go. I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm going to steal something from Chris Klieman here. Each game is its own season, right? It's a 1-game season, and Kansas State can win this game by 30. It's only 1 game. Okay, what if Kansas State has an opening kickoff for a touchdown and gets up double digits early and doesn't face any true adversity? Did we learn much about a K-State team after everything it's been through 4 games if it cruises to a win and doesn't have its back against the wall? No. So even if K-State looks great, I'm not going to just buy stock into a team after 1 good performance, right? 2 is a pattern. I can buy into things if you go down to Waco and compete with I'm not even saying win, compete with a good Waco, good Baylor team in Waco, but 1 game at home against a UCF team who is a touchdown underdog. People have to remember that. I know a lot of people are very confused as to why Kansas State is favored by 7.5, but your preseason kind of ratings and metrics still hold a lot of value. And I know it seems like 4 games for K-State, 3 for UCF is a lot in football terms, and it is, but everything that everyone thought about these 2 teams before the year still holds some value, not to mention the fact that North Carolina is trash, like you mentioned, Fitz, and also UCF's
hot trash
first game. I'm sorry?
Hot trash.
Hot trash. Thank you. Also, UCF's first game was ugly against, was
They
it
should have
Jacksonville
lost.
State?
Jacksonville
So
State. Yeah.
UCF had 1 good game. That doesn't mean the pendulum swings entirely in the other different way. So, no, long answer short here. I don't care how good K-State looks. I'm not just going to immediately buy back into the team.
I think there's some value to that. I mean, I would also make the argument, though, Gilbert, like, what have they not been able to do? What have all the players talk about? Well, we got to come out and play fast. We got to come out fast. We got to come out with energy. So you talk about not facing adversity. Well, to me, if they come out and don't face any adversity, it's because they came out fast. And so, boom, there's one thing that they checked off that they wanted to accomplish. And, yeah, like, it's a home game against a team you're a touchdown favorite against. Like, to me, it's a win the game. Like I talked about on the Insiders, crap trickles downhill. Well, guess what? It doesn't trickle.
I don't think that's the actual phrase.
Thank you. Well, it doesn't. It can't trickle uphill, but you can get the ball rolling and you can get some momentum going with a win. And so I agree. Like, if they win this game, regardless if they win by 2 or 3 touchdowns or if they win by 1 score, like, you won the game. And I think that there will be a giant weight lifted off of this team's shoulders. Like, okay, now we can just go play. And maybe they will walk into this game with no pressure. Like, they think that's a very realistic option. These guys are not stupid. They see what the fans say about them. When people comment under K-State football announcing game times, too bad, you suck. Like, those guys see that. So, like, that's one person. So I'm not saying that the whole fan base is like that, because I've been very outspoken about how great K-State fans are. The Bill is going to be sold out on Saturday, and people are going to be rocking because they want to see their team get a win. But the players understand that the fan base is very frustrated. So if they get a win, it is. I agree with you, Gilbert. It's a 1-game season. And I think that needs to be everybody's mentality moving forward.
Can I change my answer real quick?
Go ahead.
Up in the press box, I don't want to have Fitz drop his phone, Cole to look at me, and all of us in our little area to just look at each other and say, what the heck was that? Why did they throw short of the sticks on 3rd and 4? Why did the special teamer botch a punt? I could go on and on and on and on. Why did Avery not cut it up the field? If I don't do that at all, or we don't do that in the press box, then I'll change my answer. Good. I'll be much more optimistic.
What's the first thing that will piss me off?
Running onto the field.
All right.
There you go.
Except if it's a fat guy. We already had that conversation with Big B.
Unless Big B gets resurrected.
Come on.
He is absolutely not going to be run to the end zone.
In the great words of a former Kansas State coach, whose name is Bob Kramer. Sorry, it was escaping me. I think that's it. Mix in a salad. That's what he told his offensive lineman. They need to lose a little weight. Mix in a salad. Run to the other end of the end zone. At least do it for this game. Okay, guys, we're running long because I can't shut up. El Camino has a great question here about the depth chart. Doesn't really reflect any changes. Don't worry about the depth chart. I mean, I bet you they haven't even updated that.
Right.
And outside of injuries. Now, tomorrow being Wednesday, we should get an injury report. So we'll be back in that game, which is good. And that clarifies things a bit. I actually really like that, guys. And part of it, it's purely selfish. You know how much time we spent in the past trying to find out if this guy or that guy was actually injured and was he going to miss? And we're sneaking around and we're asking people that honestly could get fired if it's known that they released information. And I'm just free of that. Now it's out on the table. So let's get to this. This is the other big happening of the day. KITN cat.
Kitten cat. It's kitten cat.
Really? Your name's Kitten
This was
Cat?
asked on the one with you and John, you two and John, right?
Yep.
And I think you had to correct him on there as well, Cole. Fitz just can't get it down. Anyways,
This is our
whatever, Randy. Okay, discuss the basketball schedule. What stretches do you like or hate? What stretches will be critical to the team's NCAA tournament hopes? Meow. I'll put that at the end to stick with the character. So let's
that
do
reminds
this.
me. Did we have an episode where Cole had to say meow like 12 times on an overtime a while back?
Yeah, and Fitz didn't realize it.
What do you guys expect, that I listen to you? What? No. Okay,
True.
so I promised you a really sharp graphic, one that will honestly probably blow you away.
And this is just the conference schedule, by the way, folks.
Yes.
I don't know if they wanted to look at the whole schedule. This is just the conference schedule.
Hold on. Why is this not opening up?
Oh,
no,
boy.
let's remove. What? There we go. Whoa! It
Where
went
did
full
Fitz's ugly
screen.
face go?
I figured out how to make it full screen. Except
All
it's
right.
covering up the bottom. Oh crap.
This is great podcasting.
I don't know how to do this. Present.
You had it earlier.
I know. Share screen. No, I don't want to share screen. I don't know. Okay, we'll just let me get in here. Media assets. We'll take that off. There we go. Okay, boys. There's the conference schedule. Back to 18 games. They played 20 last year. That was just too many. It was stupid. And they open in Manhattan against BYU. Their second game is in Tucson against Arizona. Welcome to the conference play. Here's a slap upside the head. Gills, you've probably studied this closer than I have.
Mm-hmm.
What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, initially, and I want to be clear here, a while back we learned Kansas State's opponents. Now we have the dates, and then in the future we're going to learn networks and times. So the Big 12 is just dragging this as much as it can, which is a bit ridiculous. But we already knew, obviously, the opponents, so we knew that Kansas State, in my humble opinion, got a pretty favorable draw. As far as the opponents, you only have to play of that kind of tier one group of teams, KU, twice. You get Iowa State, Houston, Tech, Arizona, and
Baylor.
No.
Baylor's twice. Yeah.
Baylor's BYU is my other kind of tier one team. You only get them once. So that is very important, right? And KU, Jerome Tang, I think winning at Allen Fieldhouse is next to impossible, but winning at home, Jerome Tang has never lost to KU inside of Bromwich Coliseum. So I like the schedule overall. I think it's favorable for Jerome Tang and his team. Fitz, you mentioned it early on. You've got to be ready to hit the ground running. And, Kansas State obviously was a sub 500 team last year, so never really was a good team. But later in the non-conference portions, K-State never got it figured out. And I think losing to LSU early, losing to Liberty in the Virgin Islands, you can live with that so long as you get, improve as the non-conference slate progresses. K-State just never did that. So K-State can go to Creighton and lose this year. K-State can go to Indiana and lose this year as long as you get it figured out by January 3rd when BYU comes to town, because that is one of the best teams in the league. And then you've got to go out to Arizona and play another really damn good team on the road. Oh, and an extended road trip is never easy. Living in a hotel for 4 nights or whatever that's going to be. Arizona State's one of the worst teams in the Big 12, but that's just such a long, I honestly brutal first three games in the league, and then from there on out, it's kind of just up and down, tough game, easy game, what have you, up until the very end when you go to Boulder and you play Colorado, TCU, and West Virginia. Those are 3 very, very winnable games for Kansas State. Now, like I said earlier, going to KU and winning against a Bill Self-coached team in Allen Fieldhouse is going to be very difficult. But if you can win those 3 games, Colorado, TCU, West Virginia, you win those 3 games and you just you put whatever happens in the rearview mirror in Lawrence and you go win some games in Kansas City, then you are clicking at the right time when it matters most heading into March, assuming that you're an NCAA tournament team. So the opportunity is there for K-State to kind of get hot when it matters most in early March.
If you look at BYU and Arizona, that's a tough way to start. You get BYU at home, then you go to Arizona. But then you've got this string of Arizona State, UCF, Oklahoma State, and Utah. That's a very manageable stretch to get your feet under you.
Yep.
Then you have Kansas coming into your place. It's on a Saturday. Thank you, Big 12. And then you go to West Virginia. I mean, you've got some opportunities in the front half of the schedule. You go to Iowa State, or Iowa State comes in again. You got them at home. Then you go to TCU. Cincinnati comes in. There's some really good teams in this league, but you're right, Gills. Because of the way the schedule stacks up, you're catching a lot of the good teams just once. Mm-hmm. Houston, it's down there. You'll probably get the crap keep beating out of you. They're just that good. You get Baylor coming in. You go to Tech. That's tough. And then, like you said, Colorado, TCU, West Virginia. Yeah. I mean, there is some 2 winnable stretches in there. And let's not forget that their 6-game winning streak last year that remains unexplainable by modern science involves some of these top-tier teams. Yeah. So I don't mind the schedule. I love that they end the regular season with Kansas.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that they finally put both games on Saturdays. And I know that once in a while it could be a big Monday game. Notice there's no Monday games. So they're not in that package at all. But I love that those are both Saturday games. They should always be Saturday if they're not a nationally televised featured game, which right now K-State's not going to be part of that. They've earned that. So, Cole, any thoughts from you?
So I'm gonna show you guys the road environments here. Okay, I'm taking BYU at home, and I'm taking Arizona on the road, and I'm throwing them out. You know what? If this team starts 0-2 in the Big 12, there should not be a single fan who gets mad, unless obviously there has been a disaster in the non-con. But either way, I think both of those games off the rip. Okay, great, whatever. If you win one of them, congratulations. The road environment at Arizona State. Gilbert, you would know better than this, but when we watched it on TV, it looked absolutely horrendous. I don't think a Saturday before the students come back is going to change that. Then you come home to play UCF as we outlined. Then you go to Oklahoma State, who the road environment in the past has also not been the greatest. Since it's Saturday, maybe it's a little bit better, but I still don't think it's an upper half road environment in the Big 12. You get Utah, KU at home. You go to West Virginia on a Tuesday night. Saturdays typically look a lot better as far as road environments in Morgantown. I've seen weekday games there, especially when the team is bad. Nobody shows up. And then you get Iowa State. Then you go to TCU, who we already have outlined about their road environment. Your first true tough, as I would consider a Big 12 road environment, is not until February 14th. There is not a single reason why K-State cannot win a handful of these road games up until February 14th. I look at the beginning part of this schedule, guys. K-State can become an NCAA tournament team if they have a successful non-con by February 14th. That's just the bottom line. Yeah, they can submit themselves as an NCAA tournament team, and then whatever happens after that, as long as they keep their head above water, they're fine. But this stretch is perfect for K-State because there are so many winnable games, and the days that they fall on the road games, I think it really works out. And so I'm kind of fired up for that schedule. That looks really good.
Let's talk about the really important thing here. Is that I think we can all agree there probably won't be a bowl game this year. If there is, it might be, the Lucky Charms Bowl or something. I don't know exists at 6-6 or 7-5. But Ryan Gilbert will get a doubleheader road trip to Arizona in January. I'll probably find him a hotel in Tempe. You can drive to Tucson and come back. My gut instinct is you'd prefer to be in Tempe. No reason why. I just going to throw it out there.
I don't get it. But Tucson was fun, Fitz. I don't know what you're talking about.
I would be in Tempe. You can stay in Tucson. That's fine.
Right. But 4 nights in Tempe sounds like a porn movie. And I just I think I have great optimism for you for a prolonged road trip in Arizona. Zach Carlson might want to rejoin us so we can go golfing for 4 nights. I don't know what you'll do for 4 nights.
I'm going to hit up our friend from the Rate Bowl. I can't remember his name. You know what I'm talking about. The guy.
That worked the hospitality room.
That was awesome. Yeah. So I'll keep myself busy. But real quick, on a serious note, you guys both talked about Houston on the road. That is probably going to be a loss. And so you can look at it through a glass half empty approach and say, that's a tough game. But if you're going to lose a game, you might as well just go to Houston and lose, right? If you're going to play a team once, I think Baylor's the best example. If you play Baylor once, you want them at home or away. You want them in Bramlage. That's much easier to win. So I think even just from that perspective of the schedule kind of laying out in the best way possible is awesome, in my opinion. Iowa State, you don't go to Hilton. I think you can beat Iowa State at home. But winning at Hilton, I know K-State did it last year and dominated Iowa State. But to do that again, I wouldn't bank on it. So I think every little crook and nanny of the schedule just kind of, Cole, you mentioned some of those away games. I think all of it does go in K-State's favor.
And let's be honest, opening with BYU in Manhattan and Arizona and Tucson, if you win one of those games, oh my goodness.
After 2-1, after Arizona State too. Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see. Once again, if you have a friend in Tempe that doesn't have friends, Ryan Gilbert will need a friend. He really doesn't have any here. No. So maybe you could reach out to the guy from New York that we met in Ireland that you're now Instagram friends with.
Yes. Paulo.
Yeah. He was awesome, by the way.
Forget it.
What does he have to do with Arizona?
He was so New York. It was amazing. Maybe Paulo will fly down. That seems about like his kind of place. I want to say that I want to go on that trip with you.
But then you'd be with me.
Yes, I don't. And I think we also realized this. If I went on that trip, I'd be away from my dogs for 4 days. And look, if there's a bowl game, that's a sacrifice these little smelly things can make. But for 4 games basketball, when you don't need me and I don't want to know what you're doing, I'll skip. That's it for the podcast. It was a weird one. They're turning into that. That's what it's becoming now. Let's just be weird and get through the season. But a win would be huge on Saturday.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.